Okay, this is my third attempt at this recording. The first one, I had an issue because there was a constraint and just kind of scuttled what I was trying to do, and I had to restart. And then something weird happened. I had a delivery to my apartment, and I just can't. So we're just gonna push through this as whatever happens happens. So on this if you watched the lesson video, you know that this was my first attempt at doing the colonial flag, and that there were some things that clearly did not work out. And I do want to explain what it was I was trying to do. I have no idea how that happened there. But we're going to come over here and open a new sketch. That's already done because I had to delete everything because I don't even want to talk about it. It was traumatic. So we're going to start the colonial flag by drawing a 2-point rectangle. And I'm going to draw this to represent one of the stripes. And I want to get the dimensions right on the stripe. So I'll dimension this at 3.8 inches across and dimension it at a height of 0.1538. Okay, and so that pretty much is one stripe. Now I do want to show you what it was that I tried in my original attempt, because it should have worked, and it's just one of those things I don't have enough time to figure out what happened. So in my original attempt, I drew what would constitute the base of the flag. Okay, so I drew a rectangle and I dimensioned that at the dimensions that I wanted it to be, including a height here of 2 inches. So if I zoom in on this so you can see better, you'll notice that this dimension right here goes with the height of one of the stripes. And you should recognize that number because I just typed it in on the other one. I said 0.1538, and Fusion, of course, is rounding this to 0.154. And you'll notice this FX. And what that means is it's a dimension that is referenced to another dimension. So if I hover over it, it says D6, and then it says D6 is defined as D5 divided by 13. So in other words, that 0.154 is not something that I plugged in. It is something that Fusion calculated. And if I go over here to the 2, you will see that that is dimension 5. So dimension 5 was 2 inches, and then dimension 6 is defined as dimension 5 divided by 13. So what I was trying to do was, since we needed 13 stripes on the flag, I thought, well, if I make the height of the rectangle exactly 1/13 the overall height, I should be able to perfectly fit 13 rectangles into my larger rectangle, because that's how I dictated it. And the way the reference dimension should work is if I were to change the 2, this would change along with it. So you wouldn't have to change multiple dimensions at once. So that's called a reference dimension. And I think at this point, I am going to require you guys to watch this video. Hopefully it's not too much of a hot mess to have you guys watch it and ask you some questions on that. So make sure that you're writing that down, because this is something that I was going to do and then wasn't able. It obviously didn't work. So I don't know why it didn't work. And with more time looking at it, I'm sure I could figure out why. It's just that wasn't the focus of what this video was. So I did want to point that out, what I was trying to do there to make it to work. So just like with anything, when you try something that doesn't work quite right, you got to go back to the drawing board and try to figure out another way to do it. So I thought this time we would do the stripes using a rectangular pattern, which is what I was doing before. I just had the rectangular pattern inside of a bigger rectangle. So kind of decided, well, I don't need to have the bigger rectangle. So we don't need to have it. So to do a rectangular pattern, we go to the Create menu and we're going to go down to Rectangular Pattern. And I do want to demonstrate exactly how this works. So Fusion is very user-friendly if you've got time to play with it. And so the first thing it asks us for is, what are the objects that you want to pattern? And so I would like to pattern this entire rectangle. And so I want to make sure that I select all 4 sides. Now, a rectangle has both width and length. So if you look at this, there's 2 arrows, and it says we're patterning this with like 3 rectangles. So if I take this rectangle and I drag it out to the right, notice that there's 3 rectangles there. And then there's this that I can drag it up, and I could increase the number of rectangles. So we can make it 4 or 5. And we get a rectangular pattern, hence the name rectangular pattern. Okay, and you could drag this out or increase the number of rectangles that you had going on. Oh, I decreased it to 2. Can make it 4. Now they're overlapping, but you can see them there. Okay, and so if you are in a situation where you need to have a pattern like this, this is obviously the easiest way to do it. If you're in a situation where you almost need a pattern, okay, there's this button right here that says suppress, and you'll notice that all of my rectangles are checked off. And if I wanted like all of them except those 2, I can click that, and basically Fusion will suppress those. So if you've got something that's almost a rectangular pattern, then this is what you want to do. But we don't want to suppress anything, so I'm going to uncheck that. Okay, so I'm taking away that option, but you should know that that option is there, and that you can elect to suppress any part of your pattern, and you can do that with circular patterns as well. So for this though, we don't need a pattern, so I'm going to drag this back in, okay, because I don't need the pattern going in that direction, and we'll bring that down to 0. Oh, wait, whoa, wait a minute, I changed directions. Quantity 1, okay, quantity 1, not 0. Now, for this direction, though, we do want 13 stripes, so we're going to increase this to 13. And they're kind of close together there, but that's fine. Okay, so those are our 13 stripes. And this essentially is what would be called a linear pattern, because we're not using that second dimension. So let me make sure I have all 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay. Now, this is where I ran into issues in my first attempt trying to record this, because obviously, if this is an American flag, I don't want weird spaces in between my stripes. I want these stripes to like be flush with each other. So in other words, I want this segment right here that I'm highlighting in blue to be collinear with this here. I want them on the same line. So this happened in the middle of the video. That video no longer exists, but I click collinear and I click that and I get an error. So all of you are super familiar with getting errors. It's so much fun. So it says failed to solve. Please try revising dimensions or constraints. What that means is that it can't do that because these rectangles are already constrained in some way. And so in the video, I'm thinking, oh crud, what's the issue with it? And I couldn't find it and just spent too long looking for it and had to pause the video. And but I did find it, and here's the issue. So we know we're looking for some kind of constraint. The issue is this constraint down here, which is sneaky, and we're going to go highlight it. That is a rectangular pattern constraint. If you look down at the lower right-hand corner there, okay, because the way rectangular pattern constraint, I'm writing stuff down. So because of the way that I made these rectangles using a pattern, Fusion automatically constrained them. So good thing we know how to remove constraints. I had to go hunt around for that constraint. So we're going to delete that. And what that does is that's going to allow me to manipulate these rectangles. So I want them to be collinear. I want these 2 lines to be flush with each other or on the same line. So I'm going to go ahead and click them, and what you can see there, and you can see the collinear constraint pops up, but I'm going to keep applying that to have them pretty much be flush with each other, because we don't want those. And all right, is that all of them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So I'm already better than my other flag, which had 14. And they're all the same width, and they all have like the right dimensions, because that's how I dimensioned the original one. And we use the rectangular pattern to be able to do that. How to remove the constraint so that I can do some stuff with the pattern, but got there. Now we need to do the union part of the flag. Okay, and for the union part of the flag, I am going to do a center rectangle. So this is where your design intent is going to matter. I am doing a center rectangle because I know I'm going to do all those stars, and those stars need to be in a pattern around the center of the rectangle. So it's going to be really beneficial for me to have that center point already recorded in Fusion so that I'm not trying to find the center point. So we're going to go put the center rectangle on here, and I'm not really going to worry too much about the size of it. We're just going to put it in there. And my dimensions on that need to be 1.52 and 1.077. Okay, and then obviously we're having an issue with this not being centered right, and so I am going to go ahead and use that collinear constraint again, and I'm going to constrain this to that. No, I hit it the wrong way. I know better than to do that. Let's try it again. Did I just do the exact same thing that I did before? Because I like, what's my deal? One more time. Okay. Okay, I found what the issue was. The issue was when I did my center point rectangle. I will show you again. When I did my center point rectangle, see how it is snapping the center point? It put a collinear constraint on the center of my rectangle. And so the rectangle was constrained in a way that I wasn't expecting it to be constrained because of that. And I wasn't paying attention and didn't realize that that's what Fusion was doing. So this should work. Okay. So let's see, and I'm going to dimension it first. So 1.52. And hopefully, yeah, like it doesn't 1.077. Okay. Because okay, so now let's try to do it. No. Okay, so we have the dimensional constraint. Okay, sorted it out. I honestly don't know why it's doing this, but it's automatically, it was like moving this segment here. And so I didn't want it to move that way. So I put an equal constraint on this segment right here. Okay, and you can see the constraint symbol there. And this segment down here basically saying, okay, you're not allowed to move that. And then when I tried the collinear constraint, it did what I wanted it to, which is move the rectangle so that it was collinear with the top of that, and then hopefully this will work. Boom. Okay, so there we go. So that part worked fine. And again, like I said, this might be messy, but what I was trying to do was it just wasn't constraining the way I wanted, and I want to make sure that this rectangle does line up perfectly with the edge of my previous rectangles. So now I have all these extra pieces in here, and what I'm going to try to do is pick the modify panel, and we're going to trim these inner pieces that I don't want. And so this is a little bit laborious, and I've got a million constraints in there. And when I was, if you look down at the lower right, notice that I am getting constraints and or dimensions were removed during this, meaning that some of the things that I did earlier to constrain these segments to be collinear with each other, when I start deleting pieces of those rectangles, those constraints are no longer in place. Now, it shouldn't matter because I'm not going to mess around with any of the other dimensions anyway, but that is why we're getting a warning over there. And what I'm doing here, again, is deleting out all these middle pieces that I don't want. So I got a few more to go. And we want to keep that one. Okay, so now we've cleared all of that out. And now we would like to do our stars. So to do these stars, oh, there's like so much that needs to be done. What do we want to do first? Let's create our construction circle. So I'm going to create a circle, and then I'm going to change the line type over to construction and go ahead into the center of that and create a circle. And it doesn't really need to be tangent with the edges of the rectangle, but just to like practice, we'll like click that and make it tangent. Okay, and you can see the tangent constraint was put on, and that was more just to practice the tangent constraint than anything. I don't think that's going to bear, it doesn't really have any bearing on the rest of this design. And then make sure you turn off your construction line type. Guilty, super guilty of doing that. So now we're going to put a star in here, and I toyed with other like different ways that we should do the star. Should we be really particular about the stars, and just, should we be like particular about them? And we're not going to be particular about them because that's not the point of the lesson. So I'm going to grab my line tool, and we are going to do half of a 5-point star. Okay, and it doesn't have to look great. So I don't know why. Oh, what? That's a weird point for it to snap to. Okay, so here's the star. I'm going to zoom way in because I actually want this star to be pretty small. So I'm going to come down and then go out to the side and then come in like so, and then come back out and then come in like here-ish, I don't know, and then connect that up. Okay, so that is like half of a star, but it's obviously not exactly what I want. So I would like these 2 points to be vertically constrained. So what I did was I would just put a vertical constraint on that to make it line up. And I would also like these points to be constrained vertically with the center of the circle. Okay, which is just off from that line. So what I did, I put this vertical constraint so that this, I am like 100% sure that this star is going to be centered over the center of the circle. Now that's only half of the star, which you can tell it's horrible. But to make it nice and symmetric, we're going to go into the create panel and we're going to use the mirror option, and it's going to ask us, hey, what would you like to mirror? Well, I would like to mirror all of these. What would I like to mirror them over? That center line. And I get that beautiful thing. And it changed my whole, why did it do that? And I'm going to trim the middle line in that I don't need the middle line. So yeah, and that again, I got that dimensions constraints. It's because I deleted the line that it was mirrored over and therefore, yeah, messed with it. That is a jacked up star, but also not the point of this exercise. So now what we need is we need 13 of these in a circular pattern going around our union there. So we are going to go into the drop down menu for create. We're going to pick circular pattern. And this time we would like all of these. So make sure you select all of the pieces of your star. And what point would we like to pattern them around? That's why we need that like circle there. We probably could have used the center of the center point rectangle. We probably could have done that. Now, I only have 3 stars there, but we need 13. So I have a feeling it's going to get a little bit crowded here. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh, look, they all fit. Boom. And now we have our 13 stars and our 13 stripes. Ta-da! It's way better than my first attempt and only took 21 minutes to do, and that was with a couple of hiccups in there. So here's what you will need to screenshot. Let me move that, okay? So I need to be able to clearly see on yours. So remember, the goal of this activity is the patterning and proportions. There's like a lot of stuff that we actually covered in here, but I need to be able to see the dimensions of the length and the stripe, okay? And if you opt to do the stripes a different way, you've got to show me that you have those stripes done, like that they're the right proportions and everything. I need to be able to see the correct proportions on the union part of the flag, and I need to be able to see that you do indeed have a star, and you should be able to see that circular pattern constraint there. Okay, so you're going to take a nice screenshot of that with all of that on there. Okay, make sure that I can see all of it, and then scroll your name across it in a way that somebody can't steal it. And you can have 2 options for submitting. You can submit this on the assignments submissions channel in Teams as a screenshot. Just again, make sure that your name is all over it. Okay, and then and make sure that, and you can't submit this screenshot. Okay, so don't try. Yeah, yours has got to look different from mine somehow. It should have different looking stars, and it should not be mine. Okay, I'll screenshot my own to make sure that you can't submit that one. And yeah, so make sure you can see everything. I'll probably also set up focus so you can submit it in focus as well. So there is activity number 1.